Perfect.
Wonderful. How is life?
It's very good. Had a lovely long weekend, so I can't complain. Nice weather. I did have a bit of a fall on my mountain bike, but I came out unscathed, so it was good.
We love to
Yeah.
hear it. We're so happy that you're with us. Give us a little bit of context into the Royal Academy of Engineering and yourself.
Of course. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Katie Saddleton, obviously, and the Senior Ecosystem Manager at the Royal Academy of Engineering Enterprise Hub. So my role specifically, I lead essentially a support platform for engineering entrepreneurs and business leaders to essentially help their companies to scale, to connect with one another, and just generally put engineering innovation in the service of society and maximize the chance of the success. Um, about the Academy more generally, though, so we are the Royal Academy of Engineering is the UK's National Academy for Engineering and Technology. So we are a charity or a fellowship organisation and a national academy. And essentially our vision is to put engineering and technology in the service of society. So that's a starting point.
Well, it's a great starting point to have, right? Of all the things to do in the service of society, we love to see it. Can you give us a little bit of history on the Royal Academy of Engineering by any chance?
Of course.
We love a royal community. We love a royal academy. It's something the Brits do really well. It's stick a royal on something. But I'd love to know a little bit of a deeper dive. Do you know can we give us some intro into when it started, how it came into fruition?
Of course. So we're actually in our 49th year. So next year is going to be our 50th
49th.
anniversary. I know.
Wow.
It's good going. We've done a lot during that time period as well. So we were set up by the late Prince Philip, he see the Queen's husband, and he really saw that engineers were able to be at the service and be the ones who are creating solutions to make really, really important change happen. And we have kind of done so much. Initially, it started as quite a small community of engineers, and as it's grown over the last 49 years, and again, next year we'll be celebrating that 50th year, we have done so much work around just supporting engineers as a profession. We do policy work around through the National Engineering Policy Centre. We do innovations, we support engineering entrepreneurs, and essentially over that time, we've developed a stronger and stronger community, both in the UK and internationally. So initially it started quite UK focused, and internationally we have grown, and our breadth of the work that we do is has a really global foot, footprint for positive change, which is brilliant.
Katie, I'd love to know when it comes to the type of work that the Royal Academy does, is it going out into the world and recruiting engineers into the academy? Is it fostering innovation? Is it looking at other parts of the world and bringing back that knowledge? What role do you play in all of this?
Of course, great question. So I would say in terms of to answer your first point around the fellowship organisation, so and I will can fact check myself afterwards. Roughly 1,700 of the kind of best engineering and entrepreneurs are fellows. So this is a very highly, I'd say, competitive. It's a highly prestigious
Do you get invited in?
honour. Exactly. So it's a nomination process, and it's the creme de la creme of engineers and industry leaders who become fellows of the
Can
Royal
you
Academy
share
of
with us
Engineering.
some of those, some of that creme de la creme, just off the
Oh,
top of the dome?
I would just say anyone anyone who is anyone in the engineering and technology space is our fellows, and they are really able to drive the work that we do. And to answer your question around the global reach, so it's not just a UK focus; it's internationally as well. So the top people in San Francisco, in across the world, and forgive me for not having names off the top of my head in this moment. I think maybe it's being live that's doing it, but um these entrepreneurs and engineers are bringing everything that we're doing across the world, and also making that interconnectivity of the knowledge sharing around the engineering profession. Then we do a lot of policy work in the UK, and we kind of set an objective voice on engineering matters, and that can be taken by international parties. But then in the innovation space, which I'll be able to talk on with a much more authority, we have a lot of international work where we're supporting entrepreneurs and innovators across the globe to create new innovations, to support them to grow innovations that they have. And then all of that is with this mission of bringing engineering and tech in the service of society and helping really, really important technology and innovation that is solving these huge, complex environmental, economic, and societal challenges internationally, not just a UK focus, to the world, to benefit everyone and hopefully collectively raise and solve those big challenges. And engineers really are uniquely placed to be solving these problems, and that is kind of a very fundamental part of our new strategy. So Strategy 2030 really is all around engineering better lives, all kind of based on this premise that engineers are really uniquely placed to respond to this very, very vast and rapid change that we're seeing within the world. And those individuals can kind of be the individuals to innovate solutions to address those challenges as they present. And essentially, that's kind of at the heart of everything that we do.
Can I ask, when we talk about engineers, are we specifically focused on like industrial engineers versus software engineers?
So we have a very, very broad definition of engineers. So I think if you looked back on Google, I think it's starting to change. If you looked back on Google, say 10 years ago, and you Googled engineer, you'd just see an individual with a hard hat and a
Yep.
high-vis jacket. And I think one of the bits with the academy is it's really seeing how broad engineering it is. So it can be the software engineers, it can be bioengineers and biomedical engineers, it can be thinking about the whole breadth of that in a much, much more open perspective and definition. And the people in the hard hats doing the civil engineers, the electrical engineers, the mechanical engineers are fundamental to everything we do as well. But it's actually seeing the full breadth of the engineering mindset and the application of engineering kind of principles in the world is kind of what we celebrate and what we do, and is in the heart of everything of our work. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I think we've innovated on software really well over the past 20 or 15 to 20 years. And it
Yeah.
feels like the hard stuff, the really hard problems we haven't, whether that's our infrastructure, whether that's our roads, it's sort of lagged behind. We've innovated, but not to the same degree. I guess what you're trying to do here is sort of raise the awareness of all of this and really push for innovations across the spectrum of software, bio, hard engineering problems, right?
Absolutely. And I would say within the Enterprise Hub, I would say, yeah, in terms of what we do is kind of our fundamental message is that we support talented entrepreneurs and business leaders to basically transform breakthrough engineering innovation into disruptive startup spin-outs and scale-ups. So as a kind of a general premise for what we do. But in terms of what we really focus on in this innovation space is bold IP-rich engineering innovation, and that can cover the full breadth of engineering and tech. But yeah, we really are attuned to and recognize and support that bold IP-rich hard tech. I oversee the UK State of UK Deep Tech report as well. So the deep tech and hard tech and things like that is really, really fundamental to everything that we do, and how we try to support people, because we really recognize that that kind of technology and innovation is what's going to solve these very, very hard, complex challenges that we are seeing today, but also we know are on the horizon.
Katie, I want to touch on the deep tech report for a moment. I tried my best
Of
to do the
course.
best amount of research on this show and try and come and so that we can have a constructive conversation here. I was reading through, and of the 3,000 companies attracting over $5 billion sterling worth of investment, there's critical challenges, right? 7.5% of those teams are female founded. Less than 6% reach scale up stage. What are we going to do about that?
That's a great question. I think what you could is one of the things that I would love to be able to do, and I would be very, very difficult, is say in research you could say you could assess the applicant pool to kind of see is the individuals getting funding within the research space, are they actually reflective of the applicant pool? And there was a bit of work done. You could see actually from what you could gather, the applicant pool was also had quite bad composition in that regard. So actually the individuals getting funding were reflective of that pool. And actually it starts so much earlier. So, and I think it would be much harder to quantify with this in terms of inspiring people to that who are the prospective entrepreneurs going into these companies, which would be one strand of it. So I think, but I probably would say that early on is where all these interventions need to well, many interventions could start. So for me to address that problem specifically, it's you can be what you can see. So really demonstrating entrepreneurship and innovation as a viable option early on. And so that could be role models and championing individuals who are ready from lots and lots of different backgrounds to say, actually, this is possible, this could be
Hmm.
you. So really early on interventions in that regard. I think in schools, bringing together that entrepreneurial mindset and testing those skills. And I think some schools do quite good projects in that regard, to like kind of bring that inspiration to the
Imperial, as an
forefront.
example, right, is a great university.
Yeah,
Does a lot of that work. Brunel, I assume.
exactly. Yes, exactly. And even just in secondary schools and earlier, there's a lot of different initiatives in that regard, but it's not consistent around that
Do
opportunity.
you feel like
And
we've
then,
got to go a little bit further
yeah,
than just STEM? It's like I really got to push the boat out on like it's engineering at its core
yes.
rather than just the sciences. And why I can't even remember what STEM stands for these days.
But yes, I would say beyond that. So it can full the full breadth, and you could have like within companies that we support, the founder could be the engineer, and not everyone in the team necessarily is an engineer, but
Hmm.
they bring all their unique assets and mindsets and skill sets to it. So I think so. Yeah, just to finalize my answer to your question is those interventions early on. I think there's a bit of a mindset in the UK. Like if you go to the US, the mindset around being an entrepreneur is just very, very prevalent. It is, yeah, everywhere. Every time I go to the US, like a coffee shop person's talking about their side project and things like that. I don't think that's so much everywhere in the UK. So to address that is there's that, but then also there's also a lot of mindset shifts, and there might be a lot of unconscious bias that is also influencing a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's wider systemic change that needs to happen. So it's not a one answer or one silver bullet to fix that. There's lots of different bits and interventions at different stages, and just generally changing the mindset about this as a being a viable opportunity, and then having an environment that supports women, to just to use the specific data point that you were referencing, supporting women to actually be founders and everything. I think within that report as well, if that was the 2023 one, I think maybe so
2023 or
within that one,
2024. Yep.
yeah, so within that one, it was also the leadership team diversity was actually fairly strong, but it was actually the women who were becoming the founders initially. So, yeah, I'll stop myself there because I could probably go off onto a big tangent,
Before
but
we jump to the US, and I know
yeah,
the missions that you go on there, I'd love to just keep with the deep the report for one more moment.
of course.
Um, One of the key findings was the fact that there is a lack of investment from UK investors because they don't understand the space as much. How do we begin to attract the right investors so that they can pour that capital into these incredible companies and founders?
Yeah, brilliant question. So I would say generally we are in a moment, we're at a point currently within the kind of financial landscape where there is not that much capital to deploy. And you're seeing a lot of VCs not being able to even write checks at the moment, or they're not in the process of actively writing checks at the moment. The relationship development is still continuing to happen, but the capital's not there to necessarily deploy. So there's that one piece. So currently that's one layer of the challenge, that the fight capital might not be there currently. Um, or it could be we've not unlocked it. And the Mansion House
Right.
reforms and unlocking the pension funds is one direction that we're going that is very, very positive, but we'll take a bit of time to see the impact of that. In terms of as you said, around the expertise of investors, so deep tech companies, and a generalization, but say a typical non-deep tech company will take 3 to 5 years, say, to develop and everything, and they'll be able to do some a bit more rigorous testing in certain areas, or more straightforward testing, shall we say. A deep tech company, and this will have nuances between different sectors, that could take 10 years to develop. And
Mhm.
so there's that one piece. So one layer of the challenge, or a second layer, is actually the capital in the UK, even if it's ready to deploy. VC firms are not necessarily set up to get the return on investment as quickly as they would like it. So the capital in some spaces actually is not patient enough to be able to, for the VCs to invest in the first place, because they know they won't get the money back quicker. Conversely, deep tech companies actually often give a higher return on investment, but you just have to be a bit more patient with it. So that's that's one thing. So that is one of the bits around the expertise, is actually understanding how they are more likely to get more money back if it goes successfully and everything, but they're going to have to change their model to be able to accommodate that, and bring a bit more patience within to the capital that they're deploying. So there's that one piece, and then there's another piece around the expertise. So just to look to the US as an example, a lot of investors in different capacities have technical backgrounds. So
Hmm.
a lot of them will have PhDs, they've worked in companies. Um, and with that brings the ability to maybe understand the potential and de-risk some of the technologies that's putting in front of them. In the UK, and I do believe, I don't have stats on it, but I do think it's shifting a bit, where a lot of the investors have a financial background. And that itself is not a problem at all. But it does mean that where these quite complex, intricate, interesting technologies are presented to them, it's very difficult to de-risk them enough to warrant them thinking this is a viable opportunity for them to invest in. So that's where the bit of the expertise is to the need to shift models, current models, to accommodate deep tech hardware, things like that. And then also developing that technical expertise and ability to de-risk the technology to, again, see it as a viable opportunity. And I can talk briefly, but I'm not involved too closely. But the Royal Academy of Engineering Enterprise Hub and Imperial College London, sorry, with support from the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, launched the SDVC Fellowship last year, very much around focused on supporting mid-career investors to develop that expertise going forward, which is really exciting. It's one round has finished, or is what one round is in progress. The second round is launching at the moment. So if you're an investor watching, highly recommend having a look at that.
We've got to get that team on to talk about the fellowship. But before we do,
Absolutely.
tell me about the missions to the US. You obviously take a cohort out to San Fran, give them the experience of what it's like in the Valley, etc. What have you learned from that process? And what do you see on the faces of these incredibly talented individuals in the UK that go there and learn something, or at least go there and feel that energy?
Of course, yeah. So the international missions that we run is through a program called Explore, which is exclusively for the entrepreneurs and business leaders within our network. And it's very much about tapping into international markets. And it could be exploratory to get people to put the feelers out initially. Is this a viable next step for their business? And actually, success could be them identifying this is not the right step for us. And part of that, we do a whole host of different activities, coaching, but we do international missions, which are tailored very much around a small cohort of individuals. So we've been to San Francisco, we've been to Boston, we've been to Paris, and we're actually planning for our next one in October for an AI and machine learning focused one to San Francisco. In terms of the biggest learnings, I think, from those is just the amount of capital in the US. Having worked so closely with deep tech companies and the report, going to San Francisco and Boston, just see the mindsets over there are incredible in terms of how it's all geared around innovation. It's so commonplace, the networks. Boston can benefit from a very, very close geographical proximity, like all the people are very, very close. So so and so, and they can connect you to so and so. And I think for the entrepreneurs who have gone on them so far, they've made some very valuable connections through our networks who are international, and we've been hugely privileged with the places that we've been able to go on those visits. Some of them have made connections that have then led on to pilot projects, or one of them's led on to an acquisition. And I think for all of them, it's actually seeing for them to do well in the US or to attract US investment, for example, the mindset shift that needs to happen. And it comes with strengths and weaknesses. I wouldn't say the UK needs to emulate everything that the US is doing, because I don't think that moves away from our unique spark, because we are brilliant as a country in terms of like developing incredible deep tech ideas. It's just some of the broader landscape pieces that the US currently has, so the amount of capital that's there that we just would love to bring into the UK so we can maximize the potential of whoever's there or who is here now.
What do you think we've got to actually, before we jump into that, those points on like what we don't need to emulate everything? What do you mean by
Yeah.
that?
So I would say, obviously, the US is incredible around, and it's so inspiring to be there and being kind of catapulted right into the heart of Silicon Valley and San Francisco around AI and machine learning is just like a huge, huge privilege. You get such a buzz from it.
Hmm.
But I think, and everyone looks to the US, I think it would be wrong for anyone, any other country, to look at another country and say, okay, we need to do a complete cut and copy and paste, because that misses a lot of nuances where we have existing strengths in the UK. So I would say there are elements of the US ecosystem, and obviously with every state and even town, there's even more focused ecosystems, but there are elements of those ecosystems and the mindset and the capital and the confidence actually, and then some of the expertise of the investors. It would be lovely to bring that into the UK, but then add it into a good mix where we can have those strong pillars or foundations, and then also recognize where our strengths lay or our current strengths lay. Like, we are incredible at bringing ideas. We've got incredible talent. Like, I think the UK can go from a zero. I've heard it recently. Like, the UK can go from 0 to 1 billion, and that's where we do well. But then the billion to 1 trillion, people have to go elsewhere, and I don't think the fundamental issue with that is our mindset or anything, but it's just we currently don't have the capital to deploy. So yeah, so that's the element. I don't want to do a complete cut and copy, but I do want to take elements and take inspiration for that for our benefit.
Tell me before you go about the innovation ecosystem that you're building out. Like, how important is that we spend time within that ecosystem and like the right entrepreneurs from society who are building generational defining companies come back and give this next generation the insights that they've got, the mentorship that they have?
Yeah, brilliant. So with the ecosystem that we're developing, so at the heart of it is our hub members. So these are the entrepreneurs who have gone through one of the programs that the Enterprise Hub delivers. Um, and the ecosystem is driven by them and their needs, so a
Hmm.
very hub member or founder centric. Um, so as a starting point, so they can developing the ecosystem just within that stakeholder group. It's important about giving back and inspiring people, and it could be people change their ventures, and then that gives birth to a new innovation or process or accelerates something else. Um, but then in terms of the ecosystem we're building more broadly is I recognize the MIT model of innovation ecosystem. So entrepreneurs, government, corporates, yeah. So you've got like 5 key stakeholder groups, which I'm sure many people know. But then we are strategically engaging all of these different stakeholders to be able to all give back to one another, because we can support the entrepreneurs to a certain point, but if we're not really recognizing and trying to actively improve the landscape of which they're in, and understanding the drivers and inhibitors of different stakeholders, so corporates, policymakers as well, um, it's a bit of a moot point. So in terms of your question about how it's being built, we're engaging everyone, understanding how everyone wants to interact, and we want to ensure there's as much value exchange and value creation between those different stakeholders as possible that we can facilitate. And what that looks like is we are really developing a lot of curated networks. We listen. Um, and our general fundamental principle is creating moments of serendipity. So we can't over engineer these things to go back to the engineering. Like, you have to just say, we're building a platform for this stuff to happen. And our general principle is creating the right connections at the right time. Like, we want to be the platform for which people can do that, and we are the space where that can happen. So we're building, and that will hopefully grow and grow over time. And that is all with the premise and wider goal of ensuring engineering and technology is able to scale, accelerate as effectively as possible. And that means the second-hand point of the commercial success, which then feeds into UK economic growth. It brings this very important technology to benefit people both in the UK and internationally. And yeah, I could go on, but hopefully that answers your question
That's
somewhat.
that is amazing. It's incredible that we've got that so close to home here in the UK, and I appreciate the work that you're doing in trying to innovate and make sure that we have these like rich IP businesses being built from here. And keep
Yeah.
doing what you're doing. That's all we can do, right?
Exactly.
Katie, before you go, I've got to ask: is there one entrepreneur, one team that you can call out for us, and that you've really enjoyed working with, you've really enjoyed overseeing some of that rich IP that they've built out?
Oh, okay. It's a good question. The first, actually, one of the commercial success that we've just been so proud of, and we've had two of the entrepreneurs, or three actually of the entrepreneurs of the team come through, is NotPla. So NotPla stands for NotPlastic, and they have basically their mission is to make like packaging disappear, and they've made a seaweed-based
All
plastic
together.
alternative. Yeah, so they've made a seaweed-based plastic. It's more kind of one-off, and I'm sure I'm doing a disservice to their mission statement, but it's the seaweed-based plastic alternative. So where you've got single-use plastics, that packaging can disappear, and I'm sure they'll create some more brilliant products. It's so inspiring to see their growth, and yeah, I think that would be the shout out that I could do. And we have 600 entrepreneurs, and I feel
Well, we've
there's
got to get
many,
them
many
all.
more.
We've got to get them all on the show at some point. Katie, this has been a pleasure. I can't wait to talk to you when the next deep tech report comes out. I'm looking forward to bringing you
Absolutely.
back on to have that conversation. We'll do a deep
Great.
dive together and get into the nitty
Absolutely.
gritties of it. I'm sure you're in the thick of it right now. I'll let you
Mhm.
crack on with the rest of your day. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Thanks.